The honourable member for York Durham resuming debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister had a clever slogan during the election: spend less, invest more. Now, I know they are fond of slogans, and it was a good one, even in my opinion. Spending less sounds good. Investing more sounds good. And I want to believe the Prime Minister when he says that. And I think, Mr. Speaker, a lot of Canadians wanted to believe the Prime Minister when he said that. In fact, I think a lot of Canadians took that promise, including with his promise to negotiate a win with the U.S., and we're still waiting for that. And I think that is probably why many Canadians voted for this Prime Minister. So let's give the Prime Minister the benefit of the doubt for a minute and believe him and assess his promise to spend less and invest more. Is the Prime Minister spending less on operating expenses? No. The Parliamentary Budget Officer says, in fact, that the average deficit over the next 5 years will be double what was projected last year in the fall economic statement. The Budget Officer says, and I quote, "The deterioration primarily reflects new day-to-day operating measures and increased provision for liabilities." That doesn't sound like spending less, Mr. Speaker. The PBO goes on to say, quote, "Absent measures since the fall economic statements and measures announced in Budget 2025, the day-to-day operating balance would have been in surplus position over 2026 to 2030. But new operating measures since 2024 and in Budget 2025 shift the day-to-day operating balance from a surplus to a deficit position." From a surplus to a deficit. That doesn't sound like spending less either, Mr. Speaker. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The PBO says we are spending more. And perhaps that's why this government is so mad at the PBO and is looking to fire him for telling the truth to Canadians. Well, thank God that the PBO is here to tell the truth to the Canadian people, because we sure aren't getting it from the government. Let me ask the same question about the second promise, Mr. Speaker, the promise to invest more. Is the Prime Minister investing more? No, because the Prime Minister has instead dressed up normal operating spending and now calls it investment. Again, we have the PBO to thank for shining light on the Prime Minister's attempt to cook the books. The PBO says, quote, "The government's definition of capital investments is overly expansive." And the PBO goes on to say that 30% of what the Prime Minister says is investment is actually just day-to-day spending. That doesn't sound like investing more. In fact, it sounds again like spending more, Mr. Speaker. And again, I wonder if that's why this government is so intent on driving the PBO out of office. They don't like the rules, they don't want to play by them, and so instead they'll get rid of the referee, Mr. Speaker.